Mass Effect 2 launched on January 26, 2010, 3 years after its predecessor Mass Effect 1, and in this deep dive I'll be going over why not only Mass Effect 2 is Bioware's best game so far in the series, but is also one of the greatest video games I've ever played.
Lockhart QT.
By the way, I'll be looking back at Mass Effect 2 in this video, so this will be spoiling certain aspects and story elements of Mass Effect 2. So if you don't want any spoilers at all for Mass Effect 2, if you're playing through the Legendary Edition or the original game, click off this video now, save it, and then come back to it later to watch. The story. Mass Effect 2 straight off the bat takes a very different approach than the original Mass Effect, by cutting down on RPG elements and focusing more on gameplay action and storytelling. This was already a current trend in recent Bioware games, as well as the main industry focusing on grittier, more action-based games. Mass Effect 2 starts off in the original Normandy with some of the crew from the first game. They are suddenly attacked by an unknown ship that completely decimates the original Normandy SR-1 and even kills some of the crew, including Navigator Presley. After saving Liara, Joker and co, Shepard is then thrown into space and actually dies due to your suit or your armour sort of ripping and then running out of oxygen. Shepard is then woken up by Jacob and Miranda in Cerberus, and they then take Shepard to meet the Illusive Man, who is a very prominent figure in the rest of the series. Now, at this point, eagle-eyed players of the original trilogy will recognise that Cerberus actually do show up in the original Mass Effect, in certain side quests and codex entries. But in Mass Effect 2 we get to see them less as a xenophobic terrorist organisation, but more in a grey area. After meeting and questioning the Illusive Man on rebuilding Shepard, he or she is then told about the imminent threat of the Reapers and the Collectors. And you as the player are then set out on your way to recruit specialised individuals, new and old, for a suicide mission, which I'll get into later, to storm the Collector base and hopefully stop them for good. The characters. The crew of the SR-1 are already iconic enough in gaming history, but in Mass Effect 2 we even get reunited with some of them being Garrus, Tali, Dr. Chakwas, and Joker. But the new faces in Mass Effect 2 are so good overall and really add to the game. Firstly we have Miranda, then Jacob, Mordin, Zaid, Thane, Grunt, Jack, Kasumi, and Edie, even though she's just the ship's AI in this game rather than being a playable party member, and Legion as well. And of course, Samara. All of these characters are memorable, relatable, unique, and extremely well written and voice acted. And overall I'd say this is the best cast of playable squad mates across the entire series. There are a few omissions, however, being Liara Tassoni, who's essentially the face of the franchise and the most popular sort of side party member in the entire community, really. She doesn't actually join the party in the base game story, but instead plays a different role in DLC, where she is a party member, and the DLC actually focuses on her with the Shadowbroker storyline. And Rex is seen, of course, on Tuchanka, leading his clan of the Krogan due to beating Saren. And of course we have Caden and Ashley, who don't join Shepard due to his affiliation with Cerberus. And of course Engineer Adams, who is still with the Alliance and won't join Cerberus. I do think that it was bold of Bioware to keep these characters in the game, not just as playable characters, as omitting them entirely would have upset a lot of fans at the time. And I think keeping them in the game is really good for world building, because fans of the first game playing the second game for the first time will see these characters and say, hey, I remember when I was sort of doing their individual party missions, and go from there really. Mass Effect 2 has a much different feeling than the first game as well, both thematically and in storytelling. In Mass Effect 1, the focus was on mystery and exploration of the galaxy, whilst trying to stop Sovereign and Saren with the Reapers. Whilst in Mass Effect 2, it feels more like Shepard has gone AWOL/rogue in joining Cerberus, and puts aside any disagreements with the organisation to stop the Collectors and Harbinger. This difference is again seen when travelling to new planets such as Omega, which are filled with sort of xenophobia, crime and gangs on the streets, and meeting with new side characters such as Arya Talok, who brings something new to the table and gives Shepard a new sort of moral dilemma as well as perspective. Changes to gameplay. In Mass Effect 2, gone is the Mako, free planet exploration, cooldowns on weapon ammo and much more. In Mass Effect 2, one notable change is just adding loads of quality of life updates, whilst also trimming the fat of the more RPG elements of the first game. Mass Effect 2 introduces ammo clips scattered across each level rather than cooldowns on weapons, limited exploration in the Hammerhead, during certain missions that is in the DLC, new ammo types and elements to combat certain different types of enemies, a new compass directional exploration system, as one big issue I had personally with Mass Effect 1 was the difficulty with finding certain objectives, which is partly fixed in the sequel. Planets can now also be scanned and then probed to find collectibles, codex entries and resources for upgrading weapons and the Normandy itself. This, in my opinion, is the only area where the game actually trips up on, as probing multiple planets to 100% the game and to get the materials needed to upgrade weapons, Shepard and the Normandy can take a while and can get tedious after a while, after having to scan each planet, then return for fuel, then travelling to each galaxy physically on the map. It can get a bit tedious, but as long as you don't do it all in one go, if you separate it out, it's still really good.
Commander?
The suicide mission. As mentioned earlier, Mass Effect 2 is structured in such a way where it all leads up to the final mission and confrontation, where the whole game is about how your choices impact with your preparation. You can go into this mission with no character party loyalty and certain characters not even being met, and no defences on the Normandy and no upgrades for Shepard, and you can actually lose all characters. You can actually have the entire party and Shepard perma-die in Mass Effect 2, and fun fact, if you then try and import your save to Mass Effect 3, it actually won't come up as an option because the entire party as well as Shepard dies. However, if you make the correct choices, do the individual loyalty missions with each characters, and then upgrade Shepard and the Normandy, you can fully accomplish this suicide mission to the full extent as it was designed for. This is where the party enter the collector base to put a stop for them, hopefully for good. You have branching choices throughout the mission at certain parts where you are tested on how well you know your characters, their abilities and your squad mates. For example, an engineer/hacker character needs to enter some vents to open doors to allow the party to progress further. And if you've played the game properly, you'll know just who to pick, which results in an easier time during the mission. Whereas if you pick someone who's not suited for this task, they can actually slow down the party or perma-die. Another great example of this is the party being blocked by a swarm of enemies that can physically disable and kill certain characters if essentially on impact. And if you send a character with the strongest biotic powers to hold a bubble shield, you and the rest of the party can progress forward and be protected and progress faster without any casualties. This goes again into how well crafted this mission was, and how it's my favourite single mission in all of gaming. I genuinely loved the suicide mission in Mass Effect 2, as the payoff made me feel great that all my choices throughout the game as well as the mission itself led to the success of both the mission itself and the ending of the entire game. So, in conclusion, whereas Mass Effect 1 was developed in-house by Bioware themselves, Mass Effect 2 was one of the first titles developed with EA, and the bigger budget and team definitely contributed to Bioware's success in making Mass Effect 2. And I know EA and Bioware's relationship in recent titles such as Andromeda and Anthem has been a bit rocky in terms of development, but I do think that being with EA, Bioware did definitely increase its quality overall. And I think that Mass Effect 2 is 2010's crowning achievement and crowning game, and it's just a sheer masterpiece that if you haven't already played, you'd need to play it. It's so good. Playing Mass Effect 2 blind all the way through left me feeling something I haven't really felt it playing a game in a long time. My first playthrough of Mass Effect 2 was actually in 2019, just before the new game was announced, as in the next Mass Effect. And this and Mass Effect 1 were the games that really made me fall in love with both the Mass Effect series as a whole and Bioware themselves. In every way, Mass Effect 2 was a massive step up for Bioware and the series in general. Although it's lacking more hardcore role-playing features and exploration, the game focuses more on linear exploration and personal stories that then branch into one of the most well-crafted final payoffs and missions in gaming history. I love Mass Effect 2, and its development and recent remaster during the Legendary Edition gives me hope for Bioware producing that same magic when producing the next Mass Effect title, whether it be Mass Effect 4, Mass Effect 5, or a brand new sort of side sequel in general. So anyway guys, that's been my retrospective on Mass Effect 2 13 years later. I know this came out sort of a few days after Mass Effect 2's birthday, but I really wanted to skip Mass Effect 1 and focus on Mass Effect 2 because I do believe it's not only the best in the series, but it's one of the best games ever made. I think Mass Effect 2 is a near perfect masterpiece, and yes, it has little things that aren't great, such as the complication with scanning and probing planets and how long it can take, but this game is just brilliant overall. And as I said, if you haven't played it, and if you've maybe just played Mass Effect 1 and you're sort of on the fence, play Mass Effect 2. This game will change your perspective on the entire series as a whole. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching today's video, and thank you so much for the recent love on both the Mass Effect videos as well as the non-Mass Effect videos. I've really just enjoyed the growth of subscribers and likes on the channel, and I've got loads more Mass Effect 4, Mass Effect 1, 3, basically I'm going to do the entire series retrospective reviews, as well as news and dissecting everything we know so far regarding the next game. Thank you so much for watching, and for more Mass Effect videos and Bioware content in general, stay subscribed to the channel and don't forget to share the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.